AEW is on such a big roll in 2026 that other companies cannot help themselves but to counter program. Welcome back, everybody, to Screw the Script. I'm your host, as always, Maverick. Thanks for joining me, and thank you for your patience to all of my subscribers here at the STS Society. This is a temporary setup. This is not my setup. I'm sharing space again while I wait for stuff to get here for my permanent setup. I couldn't wait any longer to record. It has been an entire week since I've last recorded. I don't think I've gone this long ever without recording for you guys. So again, thank you for all of your patience. And if you're new here or if you've been watching for a while, please like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. And since it's been a whole week, let's get the ball rolling. Let's get my momentum back. If you're a regular commenter and a subscriber, please hype the video. Now, it is another edition of the Top Turnbuckle Topic, but since it's been an entire week, I have topics. I have multiple topics in this video to get to, but first, let's get to the big one, and then we'll save the smaller ones for afterwards.
It's time to swoop. Maver's got the scoop. It's the top turnbuckle topic.
The big topic of this week is WWE counter-programming AEW hard. We saw that Worlds Collide is going to be on the same evening as All Out this upcoming September. We saw that they are counter-programming with a bunch of shows that are announced way into the future when they knew that AEW is going to be back in New York. And I think they're just trying to suffocate AEW out of the New York fan base after multiple great shows in New York. And it's very, very obvious. Whether they want to admit it or not, whether AEW haters, whether E-stands want to admit it, WWE does see AEW as a threat, and this is why they are counter-programming them hard. It's complete craziness that they are still doing this, putting on Worlds Collide the same evening as All Out. It hasn't gone well for them ever. Every single time they are doing this to try and counter-program AEW, it never goes in their favor. My guess is it won't this time either. But the momentum is on AEW's side. Just like it was all of 2025, so far all of 2026, they are kicking every other major promotion's ass when it comes to in-ring performance, and especially their big shows. Their pay-per-views are top-notch. They are elite, and WWE just cannot match them. It is why their arguably second biggest show behind WrestleMania, it's a toss-up between Royal Rumble and SummerSlam. They are not outselling All In. All In is sitting at around 31,000 tickets sold, is what I'm reporting here. SummerSlam is around 27,000. Now, that's just for the first night, but you know that the vast majority of people who buy the combo are those tickets. There's a lot of people that aren't just going to go to night one or night two. Maybe some, maybe 10%, and that might even be a stretch. Almost all of that 27,000 are combined for night one, night two, and it's being outsold 4,000 tickets plus by All In AEW, because when you have to pay up the ass like that, you're gonna go to both. Although they are dropping them down to $25 starting because they are desperate to get people to go to SummerSlam. That's what people called it last year. That's what I'm going to call it this year. I mean, hell, the SmackDown general manager, Nick Aldis, is younger than 90% of the competitors at SummerSlam this year. If you don't believe me, look it up. Dominic Mysterio and like 3 or 4 others. The rest of that entire card is all 40 plus years old. I'm serious. And Nick Aldis, is 39. That is a problem. They cannot build young stars, and every fucking time they do, they squander it. Where is Braun Breaker on the card? Oba Femi's on the card. He's one of the few that are young, but it's going to be maybe a 5-minute cage match. Hopefully he goes over Brock Lesnar. It's going to probably be Lesnar's final match in Minneapolis, Minnesota, which is where he is billed from all these years. But outside of that, it's like they waste so many wrestlers. Wasting wrestlers every day is the joke that I've called WWE for a while. The Motor City Machine Guns. They're probably going to debut in AEW. That's another topic that we're going to tangent to in a second. But back to the ticket sales, back to the counter-programming. I mean, look at the redemption card. This is why the counter-programming is happening. Look at that redemption card. Kevin Knight and Omega building a young star. I know people are complaining, well, why the hell is Kevin Knight all of a sudden look at him. He has the most title defenses in TNT Championship history with 9. Of course he deserves this. Kyle Fletcher and Bandito, young stars. Willow and Tekla. Willow's young. Tekla, she's a veteran now, but still a young star there. Maya World, very young star. Young Bucks, Ospreay and Moxley, not super young, but Ospreay, only a year older than me, still young. It's just those other 2 matches so far announced for Redemption that have guys that are a little bit older, Cage and Cope. But, there's other matches that are probably going to get announced. There's probably going to be one more, and then there'll probably be pre-show stuff. I'm sure we're going to get something with somebody from the Bang Bang Gang versus somebody from the Dogs maybe on the pre-show, something like that. But look at that. That is a card much better looking than SummerSlam, and that is why they're outselling SummerSlam, and that is why WWE is counter-programming AEW hard, because they put on better shows, and people are finally realizing it, and they're choosing to go to their shows over WWE shows. Again, back to some other topics. Motor City Machine Guns had a funny video. You can find it on their YouTube channel. They were rifling through contract offers. It was really funny. It was only like 5 or 6 minutes long. And then at the very end, they see one contract left at the bottom. Obviously, it's going to be AEW. We'll see them show up. And other news, Sammy Guevara removed AEW from his description and said new bio on his socials. Are we going to see Sammy Guevara, one of the 4 pillars, leave AEW? Honestly, that would be a big loss for AEW because he's been around since day one. And yes, he's been used a lot on ROH TV, but he should be on the main card, and he isn't. So I will knock AEW when it's needed, and I feel like they aren't doing right by Sammy Guevara. I know he's a new dad and all, but give the guy more TV time, or he probably will end up walking. Last week, I wanted to bring this up. More hint at the New Day joining AEW, as Kenny Omega had his celebration after he won a couple of weeks back, the AEW title. And they were wearing the same colors as the New Day were wearing when I believe it was Kofi Kingston that won his title way back in like 2014, 15, something like that. Or maybe it was Big E. It was one of the guys. And that is a very subtle callback. You know that they're going to debut most likely at All In, but I hope that they tease it or have something to get more people to sell it out. Currently, it's set up at 40,000. I think they can push close to 50,000 tickets sold for All In. And then the preview Dynamite coming up lastly on this video before I get to just one DDT. I'll have more. Again, these videos are going to be a little bit shorter for just this week, I believe. And then my stuff should be here for me to set up my full, complete setup. But look at this Dynamite. Great go-home show. This is how you put on a fucking go-home show, WWE. Learn this shit. Because that Raw that we saw on Monday, I don't watch WWE anymore, but I read the news. Everybody was talking about it. Here are some screenshots from Cage Match people complaining left and right, up and down that page of there was not a single freaking women's match or women's promo. AEW treats women better than WWE, and that's a fact. When there was nothing on the table for women on Raw, guess what? The women in AEW, they're main eventing a lot of Dynamites and Collisions. And again, back to this go-home show, where SummerSlam's 2 weeks away and that Raw that was on Monday, everybody is saying it was pointless, it was abysmal, there was no story, no build. It was just a crapshoot, throwaway Raw. Why do you do that to your fans? I don't know why. You got Kenny Omega, Ospreay, Moxley versus the Don Callis family. Tension is still there between those two groups. Love to see that. Love to see that Omega and Moxley, they've had their differences, they've had their agreements. They're teaming up with Ospreay, who is kind of in a flux between the two of them. That is storytelling. That is building to your pay-per-view. Kevin Knight, Darby Allin, TNT Championship. Is Kevin Knight going to get to a record 10 defenses, or is Darby Allin going to become, I think, a 3-time TNT champ? I know he's won it twice. Maybe a 3rd time. I forget. But either way, that should be really good, and there's been storyline there with those two. Divine Dominion, Sisters of Sin, they're probably going to win against Sisters of Sin, although it's no DQ, because I really still am holding out on the Brawling Birds being the one to challenge them at All In and to dethrone Divine Dominion. Then you got Tekla and Willow Nightingale face-to-face. See, the women are featured well in AEW compared to WWE. Clark Connors versus Jay White, a member of each of those groups, one-on-one. That is how you do a go-home show that builds to matches that are going to be at Redemption, which quite honestly is just kind of a pay-per-view for AEW. Not to knock it, but it's the very first time they're doing this pay-per-view, and it's the pay-per-view right before All In. So dare I say it's like a cool-down pay-per-view, and yet it looks better than arguably the second biggest pay-per-view for WWE. And that, my friends, again, is why AEW is destroying WWE with pay-per-views, and why WWE, going back to the top turnbuckle topic, that is why WWE is counter-programming them hard. They won't admit it. They know damn well that it's true. And finally, the DDT segment is back after a week. I have one for you guys today. The Surge. Look at his description. Guru of all things. His profile picture is Tony Khan sucks. So clearly just a huge-ass AEW hater. And he goes on to say, there is only one big league in wrestling, WWE. Everything else is indie or glorified indie. This is such a bad argument that I still see all the time, and this is why I screenshotted this one from yesterday. It is ridiculous that people still believe that AEW is indie or glorified indie. They are the second biggest pro wrestling company in the world at 7 years old, behind WWE, who's been around for decades. They make more money, and they are worth more money than any other promotion, despite being one of the youngest promotions in the world. So for that very obvious reason, the Surge, guru of all things, more like idiot of all things, you are this video's DDT.
You just made the list!
That's all I had on this episode of Screw the Script. Let me know down below your thoughts on my top turnbuckle topics, on Sammy Guevara, on the counter-programming by WWE with AEW. How about those ticket sales, you guys? It's very alarming, and I think it's a bigger issue for WWE than it ever was for AEW with their ticket sales when they had to go into smaller venues. This is WWE. They are the empire, as you would say, or describe them as. Decades they've been around, and yet their second biggest show is getting outsold by quite the margin right now by All In from AEW. As always, this has been Maverick with Screw the Script. Thanks for watching.